Oh. Is this recorded? Oh, it'll be all right. Okay. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the Finance Committee meeting. Today is Monday, July 28th, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. We'll go into public comment. Now is the opportunity for anyone in the audience to speak to anything that's not on the agenda. Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment and move on to regular business. Our first item is approval of the April 28th regular meeting minutes.
Motion. Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Our second item of business is the July 3rd Independence Day event recap. Presentation by member Alexander Henderson.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. This is just a recap discussion for the financial purposes regarding the July 3rd Independence Day celebration. If you recall, in May, the City Council directed staff to solicit nonprofit organizations to assist in providing labor to coordinate the July 3rd Independence Day celebration after the Chamber of Commerce indicated they could no longer support the event financially or via labor. City staff and elected officials worked closely and secured a partner with the Kingsburg Seawolves Recreation Swim Organization. The Seawolves representatives worked closely with city staff led by Community Services Director Adam Castaneda to organize, market, and host the event on short notice. The city provided the funding for the fireworks, which were provided by a third-party vendor, Pyro Spectaculars. City staff and the Seawolves held a debriefing meeting on July 17, 2025. Recap notes as provided by the Seawolves are included in your packet, but some highlights include: overall, the event raised $13,347.88 through gate and parking sales. This amount is split between the Seawolves and the city will use our portion toward the cost of fireworks for next year. Seawolves raised an additional $1,882.37 through concession sales. There was no city split there, and Seawolves were responsible for any expenses associated with those concession sales. The event had high turnout, and social media feedback and in-person responses were positive. The food vendors were also very happy with their evening and their sales. Event organizers identified a couple of opportunities for improvement, including better traffic management and control on Sierra Street to handle parking, as well as adding an entertainment option for families while they wait for the fireworks to begin when they do get inside the bowl. Seawolf representatives are attending the August 6, 2025 council meeting to answer any questions the council may have and provide an in-person report. We're bringing this evening tonight just to discuss or answer any questions. We'll be looking to explore alternative funding opportunities for next year's event and seeking any community feedback that you may have at this time. So that concludes my report. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Committee discussion. Is there anyone from the public that would be interested in speaking on this item tonight? Okay.
There were no sponsors gotten for it, right? So that was just. Come to the mic and speak. Darren Pearson, and were there any sponsors raised money for this?
The Seawolves accepted donations and started a Venmo, but there were not any large sponsors that contributed this year. It's one of the things that we're looking at maybe for next year is if there would be any naming rights sponsorships or anything like that folks might be interested in. There is supposed to be an article that runs in the Dollar Monthly in the August edition that will solicit those as well.
Okay.
But because of sort of the short turnaround and our desire just to make sure that the event went off, there wasn't a large push for sponsorships outside of regular donations.
Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. But it was a success.
I unfortunately wasn't able to be there myself, but I hear it was very well attended, and I heard the show was great. Um, uh, and I know the Seawolves representatives were pleased, and I think have a desire to continue and do it again next year, which I think is a good sign. And they learn from it as well and have some thoughts for how they can improve it going forward. Right.
Curious though, on that point, you mentioned here that they raised an additional 1,800. Do you know if they received any donations?
They did receive donations. They just didn't receive, I think, they received lots of donations, but what they didn't receive was like a corporate sponsorship.
Right.
Like you didn't have like a Mid-Valley come in and say it's the Mid-Valley Independence Show and give $5,000 for that or anything. Everything was, I'd say we'd probably consider like a grassroots campaign. It was just people giving money in directly to Venmo.
No, that's perfect. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll note that what the Seawolves did, because they had a Venmo account for both donations and for gate and parking, is they just combined all that and split those with the city. So it was difficult to break out how much were donations versus just like a parking charge. But the concession sales, so if you look at the report that they actually provided, I think they had, something like $800 in expenses, which is just their cost for actual supplies, and then they made $1,800. So it's probably a net of $1,000 that they had in concessions, but that was retained 100% by them.
I will say, I was there. I worked that event for hours, just volunteering, but a lot of the stuff was thanks to the chamber. I mean, really, that's where the outline came from about how to set it up. I think the walkie-talkies, a lot of the stuff was just, I'd say, chamber sponsored adjacent is maybe the best way of saying it. So there was a lot of help from chamber. It would have been a lot different event had they not had some guidance. So I'm sure when they come on the council meeting, they'll express the same thing, but it just wouldn't have been as well organized if they wouldn't have been able to take the information that you guys gave them in the past. So thank you.
Michelle back there. Do we have a total budget for the fireworks? I know you're saying what you had here, but
You want to know how much it cost?
yeah,
What would we pay, 25,000 for the fireworks?
25,500.
is it up on? I didn't.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it on. I looked through it. The total call for the. And I just want to concur that with having the blueprint from the chamber of all the years that they did it,
For sure.
having working from that foundation going forward, I think is going to be a great idea. So thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay. So you're not looking for anything?
Is that going to come back to council to determine whether or not that 25.5 is going to come from the city again, or we can do that at another time?
Yeah, I mean, I think that can be part of the discussion on the 6th, if so desired. I think and our thought was just to have Seawolves there to give a report. But I think we're open to trying to find options for funding. So maybe we'll see if there's any takers on sponsorship and explore that. And I think ultimately, yes, the council, so that, we'll have to decide on the overall funding of the fireworks.
So things, whichever direction we're going to go, I'd like to determine that early so that if we are going to go through the same thing and have a vetting process with a nonprofit, I want to give whoever is selected plenty of time so they're not running into a 45-day window to plan this whole thing. That way they can seek sponsorships or vendors or whatever they need to do. So I would like to see it go to council and force us to decide whether or not what direction we're going to go with it one way or another.
Thank you. And we'll move on to item number 3, Chamber of Commerce contract discussion, presentation by member Alexander Henderson.
Thank you, Chairwoman Smith and members of the committee. The city is in the process of negotiating contract amendments to the existing agreement with the Chamber of Commerce. The negotiations were spurred by requests from the Chamber for alterations to the contract. The 2 original requests from the Chamber were Number one, removal of the responsibility for the July 3rd Independence Day celebration. And number two, an additional $10,000 contribution towards regular operations. Currently, the city provides $30,000 annually. After deliberation with board chamber representatives, we've reached tentative agreement to the main issues and are seeking additional feedback from respective approving bodies. The chamber informally discussed the item at their regular board meeting on July 15th, 2025. While there are several language changes I intended to clarify or remove and or clean up dated items from the 2019 agreement, highlights of significant alterations include removal of the July 3rd Independence Day celebration from the required list of promotional activities the chamber must deliver annually, removal of the $5,000 city contribution made to the chamber to support the July 3rd Independence Day celebration, the annual city contribution to remain at $30,000 annually, and clarifying language in Section 6 regarding subcontracting to recognize that certain duties and responsibilities of festivals may be aided by local organizations, but identifies that the Chamber of Commerce is the sole responsible entity for festival delivery. So this evening, staff is seeking community discussion, and if there are not changes, or if there are some changes, ultimately a recommendation to the council regarding the proposed language changes. So in your packet, I have included a clean copy as well as a redline version of the changes from the 2019 agreement, as well as a copy of the 2019 agreement. So that concludes my report. Certainly happy to answer any questions and committee may have.
Thank you. Committee discussion.
Give us the synopsis, if you can, please. What are we looking at overall? $30,000 to the chamber. That's what effectively we gave them in the past, but we're removing fireworks. What are we adding?
So from a financial standpoint, the city's contribution goes down by $5,000, but we are taking on, well, we did this year at least, the financial responsibility for July 3rd. So Chamber has received $30,000 for general operations as part of their contract with the city, which we view mostly as festival delivery. We also provide $12,000 separately for the band concerts. And then we had provided $5,000 in support of the fireworks. And in certain years, we have provided more to the fireworks, or this year we provided an additional $5,000 for the Swedish festival. So those were
that's a one-time give though for the Swedish festival.
Yeah, that was separate from the contract. I mean, that was a council discussion earlier this year. So that language right now has not been before and is not included in here. And so those are the main financial components. Language components, took out, from the city's perspective, while we're supportive, at least has been the feedback that I've received, is that we're certainly supportive of the chamber's willingness to support businesses, as we are with anybody who would support businesses locally. But the main focus of the money that comes from the city to the chamber is in festival delivery. So I think the language that we've altered here identifies that more clearly, that is the purpose, to utilize their website and social media outlets to promote community events and market those festivals, as well as our businesses. We're still expected to participate and support the city's economic development committee as necessary, and we clarified. Again, I think right now it's a fall festival in here, but I think there's a desire to keep calling that the Crayfish Festival, which is fine. So the actual festivals are the car show, the Swedish Festival, the Summer Farmers Market, summer band concerts, the Crayfish Festival, Veterans Day celebration, Julgransfest, Fest, and San Lucia celebration. That hasn't really changed from the previous one, outside of removal of the July 3rd celebration. There's also some clarity with regards to what the chamber would provide to the city council in terms of an actual date to provide a written annual report to the city regarding the chamber's performance of the chamber's services and activities related to the contract that it has with the city. There's some road cleanup language in the 2019 was prior to the development of the business improvement district. And so that language is dated. And so it's just been removed or clarified from that perspective. Mentioned the subcontracting discussion. I understand that when the chamber met, the couple of comments received were related to making sure that the Veterans Day celebration remained in the agreement and that there'd be some language regarding amending the agreement, but that language, in my opinion, already exists in our current agreement. So if there is something specific that they have, I've asked them to provide that language to us.
Is there a provision that requires them to come to council to report out, or is it just the one written annual document?
Right now, it says in February of each year, provide an annual report to the city council identifying the chamber's performance of the chamber services and activities that is ending, and as well as the next year. So that, the intent there was to come in February after the end of the calendar year. It's a little bit of a lull in their time before they start to ramp back up heavily for car show, but there is, something more specific the council would like to see or the committee would like to see. I'm happy to hear it. I mean, to be honest, the former contract had the requirement for quarterly reports, and we weren't seeing those. So just a matter of what with the council or the finance committee or whoever would find useful.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open it up for public comment. If anyone would like to speak to this item, please come up to the microphone, state your name.
I just want to say thank you again to the city council for helping us put on last year's Swedish festival in the cultural village. For 27 years, I've been funding everything that goes on in the cultural village. And for the past two festivals, we have been blessed with funds. So I don't have to put out my own money anymore. And I am so grateful for that. Because Mr. Kingsburg stepped forward and helped raise funds for us, and it was wonderful. But I don't know what's going to happen this year because of some events that have just transpired. But it's very difficult, I find, to look at the. I feel very sad saying this because I've been involved with the Chamber of Commerce for years and years and years, but it's very, very difficult now because we have been told for the past several years that the Swedish Festival Committee is not to ask the Chamber office to do anything for us. We've been told that by the leadership of the Chamber Board that Barbara is the check writer and we're not to ask anything. We're on our own to do everything. So I don't know if I can continue doing what I do out here under present circumstances unless something changes. And we were even told that the Swedish Festival Committee needs to pay the Chamber office $2,400 for the work they do. And so some of our, we're all volunteers. I work a 48-hour week and I volunteer my time. Greg is self-employed and he has to give up 2 complete weeks of work. So he has no income for 2 weeks. And yet we're not allowed to ask for help. from the chamber. So do you have any idea of what we can do? Because are we able now to raise enough money to make this festival work this year? This is going to be the 60th festival. We already have a lot of creative ideas on how to make this extra special. But I don't think being in my position, I don't know what I can do to make this work this year or this for this next festival. But I really appreciate what has been done, especially in the past couple of years. It's just been phenomenal. And my family, they would probably not be too sad if we didn't get involved, because they have been working with me for 27 years to put on the festival. We moved things from storage to downtown Draper Street. And this year, because my kids and grandkids now are kind of scattered, military, one was on a ship for 2 months, and so they're just everywhere else. But the Constitutionalists for California group just stepped in and brought 5 pickups to haul 5 loads downtown. And so each one only had to do it once instead of one pickup doing it 5 times. And so I'm very grateful for that. But it's really getting very difficult. And I feel like we're, in many ways, the Swedish Festival Committee is not appreciated by the board. And we were, when we're not allowed to ask for help from the committee. So do you have a solution that we can work on? I don't know what to do.
I'll speak to that just real quick because it does bring up one of my concerns that I'm having with this contract in general. And thank you for everything you've done forever for the city of Kingsburg, for sure. Genuinely mean that. My concern, though, is that when we talk about this contract, because we're looking at it strictly from a financial standpoint right now, I think what you're asking is issues that are specific to the chamber and the festival committees within the chamber. And so that's a little bit of my issue here is not with your questions, but I don't want chamber issues to become city problems, if that makes sense. There's been a lot of issues, we all know, at the chamber, different festivals, different leadership things, all of it. I don't know which side's right, which side's wrong, I stay out of it. But it's of concern to me when it comes to the city council to try to help rectify the problems that are happening with an entity that we're contracting with. In a way, like this festival is incredibly important to our community. That's why we invest in it financially. But my concern is we wouldn't be getting involved in the politics of any other contract that we're dealing with, such as we contract with Mid-Valley Disposal for our garbage, right? And that's a very important thing. But if they're having issues within their leadership at Mid-Valley, we don't get involved to fix that. The contract says this will take place. The festival will take place. That's what we're giving the $30,000 for, or $42,000 total. So that's a little bit of my concern is I need to make sure that we are protecting taxpayer dollars by saying that this money is going to ensure these festivals take place. And so your concerns are totally valid, but they're valid within the walls of the chamber. Like that's something that kind of that entity has to figure out themselves. They have to come to the resolution. We will support it in any way we can, but we can't get involved to fix the problems.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand that because this is finance.
And my fear is that the contract is not going to get fulfilled because of some of the problems that are happening, or they're going to come back and say, well, now we need more money because there's issues with this or that or this or that. That's where my stance on it is I just need to be very clear that like at the end of the day, this is a written legal business contract that says that these things are going to take place if we give tax dollars to this organization. Anything that takes place behind at those board meetings and everything, that's up to that board to decide. How they give out money for the festivals and everything, that's got to be them. We really can't get involved in some of the internal politics of the organization.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? That's in no
Yes.
way meaning that
Yes.
we don't support the festival. We do with everything that we can, and this is our way of being all in on the festivals. But I can't help with what is their internal politics that they're fighting with. We cannot get involved in that because that's outside of our contract. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, will somebody be able to raise funds for us like Steve has done? Is he able to do that?
That's up to the chamber to make that determination. That's not up to us. We're given the $30,000 to make that happen. That's as far as we can go with it. I mean, you'll see all of us volunteering, spending our time and helping as much as we can, but with city tax dollars, we can only do certain things with city tax dollars.
Yeah.
So I hope you don't think that that's like in any way us not being supportive. We just can't get involved in the individual politics of the Chamber of Commerce from our spot up here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh. My address too.
Any other comment?
I feel that it comes back to me, since I'm the chairman of the festival. We've had issues. I don't, internally, we're going to have to deal with them, but it's getting pretty messy. People are pulling out and not wanting to do their part or what we had them do. I think what June was just saying is if things don't get resolved within the chamber, the face of the festival will change. And then that comes back to you guys. So, and I know you shouldn't, it's like getting involved in a marriage. You can't. But it's not looking real good. I think we're going to have to resolve a few things, and maybe the chamber, the individuals on, well, I'm on the board too. I don't know what we can do, but anyway, we're going to have to keep going forward, but June has said she's going to quit, and that will be, all of this block here will be empty. And I know that's not you guys' problem, but it's what we're dealing with. So anyway, we'll take our problems back to the chamber.
It's not that it's not our, I don't like that it's not our problem because it's all of our problems in the city, for sure.
Right.
My only thing is I don't know that we have in this committee that the solution is a financial solution.
Right.
That is our resource in this dais. And our financial solution is to enter into this contract. Now, I would say this is going to go before chamber next month.
I thought they were supposed to be here today.
It'll get final approval by the city council.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I know the chamber board discussed it, and I got some general feedback on that. And now sort of the next step of the process is to get feedback from this group. And then, I think, it has to go to the council at some point, so I think, the discussion today is, I think, more financial because that's the committee that it's on. But, certainly there can be comments about the actual, verbiage or language in there that they can make recommendation to the council, but then the council could have that discussion as well, when that time comes up. But I think what, committee member Purcell's trying to say, right, is it's just very hard for us we want to dictate in the contract what we expect for the chamber to deliver in terms of a festival, but it's very hard to get into the weeds about how that actually gets delivered.
It's
right?
dirty laundry
Yeah,
that you
sure.
guys shouldn't have to deal with, but
But,
Anyway,
yeah.
We'll help with what we can, but we're limited up here with what it is. We can't get involved into a third party's.
not asking financially for any more money.
And that's
Just guidance, maybe.
yeah. And maybe that's an offline conversation we can all have.
Okay.
Because I think we do all want to help as much as we can. Just while we're up here, it's contract.
Appreciate it. And you guys support us wholeheartedly, so.
We do. I just want to make sure by the time this goes to city council, I hope a lot of this is kind of ironed out, because I can't up here as a council member just forecasting out. I can't sign this if it's going to be in bad faith and you guys come here and tell us you can't do this. I'll need to know by then. And I'm going to ask you very bluntly, is this something that you guys can complete? I absolutely hope that it is, but I'll need to know truth at that, because I can't enter into a contract that's in bad faith. Also.
You guys have hearing things? Anyway.
Well, I mean, I don't think a lot of people know the intricacies of the committee versus the board, but I mean, I do think that the board has to be the one to, they're ultimately, that's who the city's contract will be with, right?
Right.
So, whether there needs to be some conversation between the committee and the board with the background that this contract is there, I mean, maybe that's the impetus to get people at the table to start having some more of those discussions, because the board has to, if they're going to enter into an agreement, they have to hopefully know that they're able to fulfill all portions of it.
I had a gentleman get sponsorships for us, and he ran it through the Lions Club, and Reggie said that was illegal. Anyway, it worked really, really well, but if it's illegal, it's wrong. So, is that in the verbiage of the contract?
Well, I mean, the old contract does have, language basically related to subcontracting. So meaning that, the chamber is not supposed to forego their responsibility and subcontract any of the festival's duties, right? Ultimately, they're the responsible party. This proposed language has some leeway in there that talks about the fact that obviously there are community groups, like the Lions Club or the Rotary, or, maybe the school district, it sounds like, might be getting involved, with the run. So that there's a recognition that these festivals, from a larger sense, take a lot of people to put on, right? They take a lot of groups coming together. So, not getting caught up in sort of the technical verbiage that, oh, well, we had, this group assist here, so is that in breach of the city's contract? I don't, I think there's what our intent is, or what I think that the council, well, at least in my recommendation that I will make to the council, that this is, in good faith, that these groups are there to help put it on. Ultimately, though, the chamber board is the one that will have to be responsible for that delivery. So if something, to answer your question about sort of, the sponsorship thing, to committee member Purcell's point, I don't know that we would really get involved in that, or that the city really cares to get involved in that. I think if you guys put on the festival and you raise money, how you raise money, that's a discussion between the chamber board and the committee or whoever else, in order to put that festival on. But
I know it's our dirty laundry, but that him getting all the sponsors helped June's village down here, so she could do some improvements and things. So anyway, sorry, I'll take my laundry out.
I'm gonna make a few comments about what I think about the contract after, unless there is more public comment. Okay.
Michelle Buckner, for the record. Well, I did have some questions. I understand this is the finance committee when you are just approving the finances for the contract to the chamber for their festivals. Is that correct?
We make a recommendation. Ultimately, it'll get approved by the city council. So we kind of vet it and make a recommendation so that when it goes to city council, like if there's any changes we want to make, we can make that here before recommending that it goes to council, but all contracts are ultimately approved by city council.
Okay,
So you won't walk out here today with like a completed contract.
correct. So the city council is ultimately the one that writes or you.
That approves it.
That approves it. Okay. So within the details of that contract, has there ever been a discussion of exactly what a festival entails? It says here that the chamber is required to do these festivals, but is there any language in there that, like, let's say, just to be devil's advocate, we're going to put on a festival at the fall festival and we decide it's going to be one taco truck and one, booth, and that's going to be their festival. Would that be in any kind of violation, or who would decide that? Who decides the parameter of what these festivals are?
Well, I think that there's probably nothing that would preclude you from doing that. I think that if you did that, you'd probably have a hard time getting a contract the next year.
Right.
But to specifically outline, we want X amount of booths, we want X amount of hours covered and all that stuff. I think that's going to just be way too far in the weeds for us.
Okay.
I think that really it's a trust thing. I mean, we've had such a great relationship between the chamber and the city for so long
Right.
that the council, I can speak for the council, they trust you guys do a good job. When you're all in, our committees, our groups, everything are awesome.
Right.
They're great. I don't think that we're at a point where we have to say we need 14 taco trucks and 6 kettle corns. I just don't think that we're like that. And I think that would just be very problematic, and getting that far into the minutia, I wouldn't like that. I mean, maybe you guys see it differently. And we just kind of trust you with that a little bit.
From a purely legal standpoint, the chamber is an independent contractor for the city. And so we legally cannot actually direct them or their employees on how to conduct business. Or we can just provide them the guidelines or what we want the overall product to be. We can't, like Mayor Purcell said, get in the
Right.
weeds and actually overly manage them.
Correct. No, and I know nobody wants that,
Yeah.
but just from a business owner on Draper Street, someone who's involved in the chamber and most of the festivals, which I absolutely love and I want to continue to do. But if there is any discrepancies, or it just seems like some things are not as detailed, and then it comes to who decides. So ultimately, it's sounding like it's got to be worked out with the chamber board. And
Yeah, that kind of lifting should all be done by the chamber.
yeah. And then, so whatever's written in the contract here is only what the city is requiring for their festivals. And if there were to be some discussion, would it go to council? Or would that be would that be a discussion that I could maybe just have privately or personally with a council member?
Well, what are you asking? I feel like we're dancing around.
I wonder if we need clarification, where would we go to get clarification for the contract that the chamber has with the city?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could ask the chamber board, or we could do our best to answer it. I think it's difficult to write absolutely everything into a contract, right?
Sure.
So as community member Purcell said, it's a trust thing, right? I mean, I think all these things are partnerships, and so when we write Swedish Festival, we assume that you're going to that the chamber is going to deliver what we come to know as a Swedish Festival. So if one year the chamber comes back and says, we're only going to do Saturday, I think then there might be a different discussion from the council's perspective on whether or not they feel like that the contract is being met, right? And so it's a little difficult to maybe describe everyone, but it's kind of like one of those when you see it things, like, is this a good faith effort to meet what both sides entered into a contract with the same expectations? Is the car show still the car show we know, or all the things, right? Without having to spell out absolutely everything, because otherwise then you could get caught the other way, right? It's like, well, you spelled all this out, and what if the chamber wants to, well, we want to add to it, actually. We want to
Right.
make it better than what's spelled out in the contract. Now we have to come back for you know what I mean? So you can get into this little tit for tat that I don't think is
No,
productive.
nobody wants that. No.
Yeah.
I guess my main question is if there needs to be clarity, it ultimately is the city council that is approving the contract.
Approving the contract, yes. As far as the logistics of each individual festival,
Right, that's
that's just not an appropriate use of city staff time. You know what I mean? Because if we were going to go through and tell you exactly what everything is, the city might as well just take it over themselves. That's the whole point of subcontracting, is so the staff doesn't have to deal with that.
correct.
Does that make sense?
Yes, very much so. And then I know one more, is this a yearly contract that will be approved each year from now?
That's a good question.
Each year in February?
Go to the exact. It's written right now as a 1-year term. And then basically it's written similar to how it's written now, which is their annual, and then it's dependent upon the city council allocating funds each year, right? So there's a allocation of the dollars that are spelled out in here as part of the regular budget process, and that's the funding by which keeps the contract going. And then there is language for either side to terminate with a certain number of days notice, but it's essentially supposed to be set up that it can be a continually 1-year renewal so long as funding exists.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have a few comments along the lines of the events. I do think we need to be a little. This is our ask to the chamber of what we want, and I do think we need to define it a little better. And I agree with Councilmember Purcell in that this is a trust thing, but we trusted up until March that 4th of July show was going to be going on, and barely had enough time to pull that off. And I would hate to see that happen with any of the festivals, but especially the Swedish festival. It's a 3-day festival, and a number of chamber board members have made comments about, why is it so long? That it should be scaled back. And so I think there is some room there where we can protect what we want to see without providing too much guidance. And I don't know what that looks like. And I'm not saying that we need to discuss this now, but I do think it's something that that would be nice if the council thinks through. Just, we outline in other contracts exactly what we want to see. So I'm just thinking that we should firm that up a little bit better. One technical item. On here, we outline what the city expects and what the chamber expects. And one of the items is we talk about insurance. There's been some, I don't know, confusion, a little frustration, especially with this Swedish Village. Can we clarify what we are requiring of the chamber? It's my understanding, it's been stated before that the city is requiring the chamber to have liability insurance and business license on all vendors. I'm not sure if that's true or not. It would help. That little detail would help at a committee level. And just if we clarified that in the language, exactly what it is that the city is requiring from. Because reading the contract now, it just looks like we're requiring the chamber to hold $1 million liability policy. So I just wanted to clarify that one. One other ask that I've heard from the public is that it would be nice to clarify in there that if the website could be kept somewhat current on the chamber. Currently, I believe the dates are from 2024, and people go there. And I actually the other day went there to put together a calendar of upcoming events, and it would be nice, given that they are the ones putting on these events, if they would maintain that to be current. Those are my comments specifically to the festivals, and I have a few comments to the financials. Right now, we're not requiring anything at all of them from a financial perspective. And I think given the taxpayer dollars that we're providing them, I would like to see added a statement that the city requests a right to inspect the records with a 5-day notice. That would be my ask. A second one is I would like to ask them to provide us with a document defining their internal controls on their cash controls. And currently they have, it's my understanding that they have contracted with a local CPA firm. So requesting the right to inspect the records wouldn't cost the chamber anything. So it's not like they took out, when they did the new bylaws, they removed the audit requirement that they had. And currently the bylaws do not have any kind of requirements over the financial statements. So I would feel better if we would add some kind of review right in there. And then my last ask is that when this does come to council, I would like them to provide financial statements in our agenda packet with a profit and loss statement by event.
Talk through that just a little bit.
Sure.
So can I just get a little bit of clarification? Why do you want to see their financial records?
Because we're giving the chamber taxpayer dollars. $12,000 specifically to the band concert. Do they spend it on the band concert? I mean, we have no idea. I'm not going to tell them how to run I'm not telling them how to run their business. I don't want to get into the weeds, but we do specifically give them $12,000 for the band concert only, $30,000 to run their operations. We don't know where.
I would say that I don't know that I quite see it the same, simply because I feel like if I say that, then I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth with it. Because if I'm saying you're a contract and we're evaluating it based on what you perform, I don't feel like we have the right to inspect their finances. We have the right to inspect their work. We can ask them for attendance records, but I don't think that we are getting financial reports and inspecting Mid-Valley Disposal's finances every quarter. And we're giving them a lot more than $30,000. But at the end of the day, they provide the product that we pay for or they don't. So I feel like if we ask them, can I now go through your bank records? Well, they're an independent one. Are we going through the bank records of all of our contracts? Because if not, I don't want to single out any one specific one. And I don't know the answer to that. We may have a clause where we do that with these other entities, but I just feel like that is us getting involved in what is their internal finances, their internal politics. And like, I don't want to get involved in it. And if they're upside down, that's up to them to fix. I don't even want to know because it doesn't matter. Provide the services and we'll give you the $30,000. Don't provide the services, we won't give you the $30,000. How they're managing that $30,000 is up to them. And I don't have any idea what it costs to put on a band concert. No clue. But to be fair, I don't care. We'll give you $12,000 we have in the past and they're doing it. I just don't want to get too far into it. And I want to discuss that a little bit. just to see if I'm missing it or if we're doing that with other contracts.
I mean, we have a right to inspect on our fiber contract. I don't know that we have a right to inspect on any others.
The fiber, though, we get paid based
Yeah,
on their
it's
profits.
because we have a loan, right?
Whereas with this, I just don't.
Mid-Valley, yeah. I mean, I guess to go back to your conversation about like clarifying language about what's being provided, we tell them you will pick up garbage, recycling, green waste once a week, right? From residential, and then obviously commercial has its own thing. But we don't tell them how to do it, right? We don't tell, well, outside of saying you got to do it in the alleys, but we don't say, what type of trucks you have to use or how many people you're going to do or whatever. It's just, it's sort of, a delivery model. As long as they're doing what we're asking them to do, we pay them. And so I don't know if there's some opportunity to add, just brainstorming like language that identifies, festivals as they sort of exist or in their general form as they exist in 2024 or 2025, so that we all kind of have a baseline, something like that could so to your point, if somehow they try to reduce something, then we'll at least have something from there.
Can we add language about protecting the Swedish cultural aspect of the festivals? And I was the one that asked. I know in here it says something about the fall festival. The Crayfish Festival is a Swedish festival, so there's a cultural element there. So I would ask, and given this is an annual contract, and if they had any desire, if they had an idea to come forward with doing something different, we could evaluate it on an annual basis. But I'm just thinking for the language of this contract, I'd appreciate if it said that we were continuing with the Crayfish Festival. But it is one of our goals is to protect the Kingsburg experience. And if we could add language around that one, protecting the cultural aspect of each of the events.
Do you want to do each one? Do you want to make sure it's the cultural village for the specific Swedish festival, or more of like a?
We have a number of cultural events, the Julgransfest and the Sandalus,
I think they're all kind of cultural events now. That's because it's Kingsburg culture, really, is what we're talking about. I'm confused. Chair Smith, what you're wanting to add language that specifically states the Swedish festival has a Swedish village, or what are you looking for exactly?
I'm just honestly just bringing up a point of one of my concerns would be, as June had said, just to protect that we maintain the cultural aspect of the festivals. And no, I'm not saying I have the answer. I'm bringing it up. This is a discussion. This will continue with council. So I'm just bringing it up as an area, and being as involved as I am. I feel it, I get in the weeds, and I'm trying not to bring that here, but I'm bringing it up as a point that it would be, if we could somehow.
I think we all know where your heart's at. So I think, and we probably all agree with you. I think it's just how do we best, either incorporate that into the contract or something, or does it become one of those? Because we could put stuff in there all day, but if they don't do it,
Right.
It is going to be a matter of the council, essentially holding them accountable, right? So,
would you like to see us kind of just adding language that emphasizes the reason behind this as kind of the objective, or add it to a chamber responsibility stating, like in subsection A, when they say playing of Swedish music, promotion of traditional Swedish events, and support of Swedish architectural styling. Would it suffice if that was maybe enhanced a little bit, specifically stating maintaining the Kingsburg experience? Is that what you're looking for, language like that?
Yeah, I'm not looking for
Yeah,
anything.
no, that
Yeah.
makes sense to me. Okay.
Sure. Yes.
It was a pregnant pause, so I was not sure. Okay, there's 8 festivals, right? That you guys give us money for. Can it be stated that that we keep the festivals? There's 4 of them that are Swedish, and there's 4 that's pretty nondescript. That they keep the heritage of the festivals Swedish? I don't know.
Is that an internal?
A what?
It sounds a little bit like that's you asking us to put in a contract what should be the chamber's priority structure
Right,
and the
right,
chamber's value structure with these festivals.
right.
I don't know that that's our place to do in a legal
But
contract.
it's money that you give us
Right.
to show people the Swedish experience
Yeah, so
at the festivals.
I think if we look at section 1A, there's language that says supports efforts to promote and maintain culturally significant events, including the playing of Swedish music, promotion of Swedish events, and support of Swedish architectural stylings.
Okay.
Does that
And
cover
that
it?
probably covers what the money, what we use the money for at the festivals.
And I'll note that what's proposed here is different from what we used to have. So the language that talks about from the promotion and maintaining culturally significant events is new. And I think
Okay,
and I don't think I wrote it. So it's specific to the, preservation of the Kingsburg experience, which is one of the council's main strategic goals. But I think we could, if we wanted to add a couple more examples of what that looks like in that subset, along with the music and, some of the other things, I'm happy to do that. I think the music got added in 2019 because there was a push to not play the music in the downtown in 2019. So that's specifically why it's in there.
I think Cindy and I are both on the board. We need to ask that there be a better chart of accounts so we know each festival, the profit and loss of each one. It's not categorized. So we can't say, oh, you give us $5,000 for the band concert, and this is what, 12,000, and this is what the money goes towards. That would be we need to find that out from the board, so.
Yeah, we'd love it if you'd share it with us. We just can't require it.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. So it's back on Cindy and I to work on that one. Thank you.
Any other public comment? So you're looking for a motion on,
Well, I think if this I think, the committee can do a couple of things. I mean, we could say, we want this to, take some of these suggestions and come back and bring it back to this committee again. So for final review and then recommendation to council, or you can say incorporate X, Y, and Z into this and then make that recommendation, and then that will go before the council. So it's just really a matter of whether or not you wish to see it at this level again.
I'm comfortable with the financing of it. The financials portion of it, I'm good with. If Chair Smith wants those language changes and stuff, it's up to you. Looking at it from a dollars perspective, I'm fine with the way that the contract sits.
I agree. I think it can be brought before council just for continued discussion.
Okay, so just from putting on my staff hat here, so just from my perspective, couple of language changes that we talked about. Well, I guess specifically maybe talking about the cultural village things. Do we want to lay the financial requests, and we can have that discussion as part of the council discussion, or would you like me to include language as part of the proposed contract? I think there was some, disagreement there.
And I agree with where Councilmember Purcell is coming from. That's.
So would we agree that finances are right? Maybe before council, we enhance that subsection A with some additional heritage, overall heritage language. And if we can reference examples such as the Swedish village within that, so that it is memorialized.
Yeah.
Is there any changes outside of that?
Well, I will clarify the insurance. I think the way that this generally works is that, and I think this one's the same, is that we have insurance. The chamber, names the city as additionally insured. I don't believe that there is a requirement that we have to have every vendor that the chamber then subcontracts with and name us as additionally insured. One of the reasons that we went to sort of the special event permit process the way that we have it is that previously we used to ask every one of the vendors to get a business license. And it was, we have one day events, they're calling on a Friday or something, it was like, this doesn't work. So we modified it so that the chamber became the vendor, the single vendor, and then they paid a fee based upon how many sub vendors that they had at the festival. And that still is the case. So ultimately, I think those, like much of this discussion we've had tonight, those are discussions between the chamber and those vendors. If the chamber wishes to have those vendors, list the chamber as, under their insurance, but I don't, and I'll clarify with the city attorney Nolan, but I don't believe that we've ever made that request so that every single vendor has to name us as additionally insured.
It had just been kind of a point of confusion that would be helpful. Do we say anywhere, it would be nice if their data was kept current? Do we, because isn't there a bullet point where we talk about if we could just add the word current, maybe?
Yes, in one sub C, there is language about the website. So I'm sure we can just add some language that says that it remains current to the, current year or something like that. Yes, that should be easy.
No.
Clarification, Cindy Regier, on the insurance. So if the chamber has insurance on the event, that is going to cover all vendors that come in. Because one of the things we run into with June and the Cultural Village is that she has vendors that might be selling food that don't have their own independent insurance. Right? Explain this right. So they would be covered by the policy that the chamber has?
Well, so I think the question for us is the coverage that the city's requiring from the chamber. So I believe when you name us as additionally insured, now the separate question is whether or not, if something happened, whether or not the chamber itself would have enough coverage. So maybe the chamber would be asking for additional coverage from those vendors. But I will clarify, but I don't believe that we, as the city, as part of this contract, are asking for the city to be named additional insured by every one of the vendors that is out there.
Right.
You are our partner, right? So
Right.
the chamber is.
Of the chamber, not a directive from the city. Correct? My understanding?
Well, I don't know what
We need to clarify that, probably.
yeah, I will clarify that. I don't know what the chamber's internal workings are between you guys and those vendors.
Right.
Those vendors are any other vendors, right? So
Right.
I'm not familiar with that, but I will clarify the city's request.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but I don't think, it doesn't need to come back to the finance committee, no, in my opinion.
You have is it clear if I make a motion? We know where we're all going. I'll make that motion. We move forward on the finances with slight language changes to the contract before it goes to council.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So it'll probably most likely go to the council on August 20th.
Very good, thank you. Moving on to other business.